Political orthodoxy was turned on its head during the Chancellor's spring statement today. Labour presenting itself as the party of big defence spending. Rishi Sunak declined to answer whether the government would be going ahead with cuts to the size of the British Army. It stands at about 73,000 at the moment. It's about the size it was around the time of the Napoleonic Wars. This is all, of course, in light of events in Ukraine. Labour said they would support any reversal in those cuts to the size of UK armed forces. But will the war in Ukraine be a conflict that demands a dramatic rethink in the way Britain defends itself? We're joined by the former NATO commander, Rear Admiral Chris Parry. Chris Parry, welcome to you. I thought something would be said about defence spending in the spring statement today. I suppose we'll have to wait at least until the budget for news on it. But, you're formerly of the Royal Navy, but it's people in the Army who feel they need not extra resources, but not to lose soldiers, which is the current plan.
Well, you say I was in the Royal Navy. I had 5 joint jobs where I was responsible for all 3 services. So I like to think I'm a purple officer rather than a dark blue one. The fact of life is the integrated review that took place last year has proved remarkably resilient, even in the face of what has happened in Ukraine. If you look at the way warfare is changing in its character right now, it's no longer putting lots of soldiers in front of lots of soldiers is the way to fight wars anymore. We've got some advanced technology. You've seen these loitering drones that the Ukrainians have been using, taking out Russian armor. You've seen all sorts of anti-tank and anti-armor weapons deployed. There are new ways of fighting now, and the integrated review actually took that into account. And I'm afraid to say no political party or indeed no media organisation should focus just on the army. There are more ways of deploying force and violence around the world than just putting boots on the ground.
Yeah, I'm about to quote a politician at you. Tom Tugendhat, chair of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee, I think it was just over a week ago, I interviewed him here, and he was saying actually quantity is quality. It's this idea that actually sometimes you just need the numbers, and you can have as much high-tech cyber capability or drones as you like. But his point, not mine, his point is that actually the army is just now too small. There are physically too few soldiers for our needs.
Well, you could have said the same during World War II, that you needed lots of bombs to hit a target. Nowadays, you have precision weapons that can put one bomb on a target and destroy a whole building. We've got to start saying to ourselves, how few boots do we need to put on the ground now in order to achieve our objectives? And it's not enough to say, look, because they've got 1 million troops, we need 1 million troops. If we can destroy 1 million troops, it's mass effect, not mass activity, that will count in the wars of the future. And the integrated review actually reflects this. If I can actually destroy targets with long-range missiles, aircraft, and other smart munitions, I don't need to put my soldiers' lives at risk. You need those for certain tasks, but you don't need them for all high-end warfighting tasks. And unless people recognize that we're no longer fighting in the 20th century, and a lot of mid-seniority ex-officers who are now MPs think that, okay, we will not be fit for the wars of the 21st century.
Choose to spend money on defence, whether it's on soldiers, whether it's on technology. It feels like there is an appetite now, or there could be an appetite, given how engaged the public is with events in Ukraine, to say to them, just as we did after COVID, there's tremendous strain on the exchequer, so we're going to increase national insurance contributions. So you turn to the public now and you say, look, the safe Europe that we thought was going to happen after the Berlin Wall came down, it's not quite worked out that way, guys. So we're going to have to start paying some bills for defence we didn't expect to pay. And there becomes a case then for some kind of hypothecated tax increase, sort of an additional penny in the pound, half p in the pound, whatever, to be spent on military spending. My point is that we're in that sweet spot right now because people appreciate that their defence is threatened in a way that hasn't been true for some years.
We've got to actually spend our money wisely on what will keep the UK, its allies and its interests safe in the future. We mustn't confuse where the Europeans have got to spend more money with where we've got to spend more money. The integrated review makes a very powerful case for global Britain and where we need to project our power and our interests. And it's my belief that we should leave Panzer-type stuff to those that can do it best and those who need it most. The fact of life is, it's our allies in Europe that need to step up to the plate, notably Germany, France, and the others. We can look after our own interests, and we need to tailor our defence that best serves our defence and the defence of our interests. The fact of life is, as your previous guest said, we've spent a lot on defence recently. We've got a 24 billion uplift over the next 4 years. We've got to spend it wisely because Britain does have a global presence. It's not just a European presence. We've got to encourage our allies to spend more than 2% of their GDPs on defence and start taking it seriously. Otherwise, the Americans will not come to our aid when we really need it.
Point, doesn't it? Chris Parry, always really good to talk to you. Appreciate your time. Thanks a lot. Andrew Pearce is alongside me. I just wonder, there's a revision of the sort of great man theory of history at the moment, that individuals do make a difference. It's not all about the grand sweep of history. Sometimes individuals and the choices they make matter. Rishi Sunak chose today in the spring statement not to say anything about defence spending. I was making the point to Chris Parry. He might have done, because obviously attention's focused on it right now. If Liz Truss, a former Chief Secretary to the Treasury, I think, had ended up getting his job, a woman who was pictured not very long ago doing the full Margaret Thatcher, look at me in the tank, it might be different.
Might be, but don't forget we've got a budget in November, and the war could still be going on, or it may be, it could be that the war's over, but the guerrilla warfare continues, and perhaps that's when he makes the big statement.
And actually, if this war were to come to a quick end, as we hope it will, and maybe, for instance, Putin was to be removed in a palace coup,
wouldn't that be great?
Well, but also you'd look a bit daft if you put up defence spending and then only to...
Yeah, I think he's biding his time, and I think that's quite strategic. And I think we've also got in the Defence Secretary, Ben Wallace, one of the shrewdest, best Defence Secretaries had in a long time. I think it helps the fact he was an army officer.
Could he be a future
Yes,
prime?
he could. For certain. Oh yeah, the money's the utter shortening on Ben Wallace.
Very interesting.
He's got what they say in the trade, bottom. I don't mean that rudely.
Yeah. Andrew, for now, thanks very much indeed.